Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between to the Count Crane Show, and today we're reviewing Rogues Gallery, written by Serum Lake. Rogues Gallery is a collection of 22 essays about the villains of Batman the Animated Series. Serum Lake is a YouTube essayist who specializes in discussing the various DC animated shows and movies, everything from the shows of the DCAU to more modern series like Caped Crusader, Beware the Batman, and Creature Commandos. It was edited by his wife, Mary Suzanne Meyers, who has her own channel, and features a beautiful BTAS-inspired cover by actual animated series background painter John Calmat. I'm a big fan of Serum's work and have been actively following his channel since 2024. So when he announced that he was publishing a book featuring revised and polished versions of his video essays and an exclusive essay on the Condiment King, I was hyped. So how does the book meet those expectations? Let's find out. For this review, I'm going to cover each section of the book in chronological order, starting with the foreword by director Dan Reba, who worked on several DCAU shows, including BTAS and Batman Beyond. It's a short but really lovely tribute to the legacy and impact of the DCAU and the countless videos, podcasts, books, and other works that analyze every single minute detail of this universe. I especially loved how he talks about the countless people he's met at conventions who said, "You've made my childhood." I always love hearing stories like that from creators. It's so sweet and shows the impact artists and their work can have on people. There's a quick introduction where Serum talks about his first exposure to BTAS through the episode The Cat and the Claw, how he wanted the series to be studied and analyzed the same way that great works of cinema are, and how he was inspired to start writing essays after the death of Kevin Conroy as a means to cope with his grief. Speaking of which, that's what the next chapter is all about. In 2020, Serum's grandfather passed away from an illness. Mary reached out to Kevin Conroy through the platform Cameo and requested a short message of condolence. Kevin came back with a 6-minute recording where he talked about the passing of his own parents and his views on the immortal spirit. The message is recited in the book, but the full recording has been uploaded to YouTube. Link will be in the description, and I highly implore you watch it because Kevin's words are incredibly powerful. These preludes are appropriately brief. The foreword and introduction are 3 pages each, so they don't overstay their welcome, and the love for BTAS is on full display, which gets the book off to a good start. This brings us to the first essay in Rogues Gallery, which is essentially a mini review of BTAS as a whole. It also outlines the criteria Serum utilizes to measure the quality of an animated work and the production history of the show. And now we can talk about the bulk of Rogues Gallery's content and the reason to read the book: the character essays. Each subsequent chapter focuses on a specific villain from BTAS, from iconic reinventions like Two-Face and Mr. Freeze, to original creations like Baby Doll and Lockup, to even obscure one-off characters like the Sewer King and Mojo. The greatest strength of these essays is how detailed and comprehensive they are. They don't just talk about how the characters are depicted in the show, their psychology, and the subsequent influence they had on the comics. They discuss everything: the character's history prior to the show in both the comics and other media, their appearances in other DCAU projects like shows, movies, and tie-in comics, and the production and creative process behind BTAS and its cast of villains. The book is as much an analysis of BTAS's villains as it is an exploration of the behind-the-scenes of that show and the history of DC Comics. A common point that's brought up is the BTAS creators' philosophy when approaching the villains: keep what works, scrap what doesn't, and bring in new stuff to fill in the gaps. I appreciate how Serum highlights specific members of the BTAS crew and their roles in developing certain villains. Paul Dini, who completely reworked Mr. Freeze for Heart of Ice, Randy Brugel and Alan Burnett, who wrote Two-Face Part 1, Kevin Altieri, who directed several episodes including Two-Face Part 1 and 2, Demon's Quest, and Feet of Clay Part 2, and numerous others like Boyd Kirkland, Martin Pascoe, Eric Radomski, Denny O'Neil, Sean Catherine Derrick, Kevin Nolan, Brad Rader, and Steve Perry, who all contributed to the show. Through these essays, I've been introduced to people instrumental in BTAS's creation who I'd never heard of, and I'll always be thankful for that. The book also discusses other factors that affected the show's production, like censorship and corporate mandates. This is particularly relevant for the essays on Mr. Freeze and his wife Nora. Originally, Nora was supposed to be unquestionably dead, but this couldn't be overtly stated due to broadcast standards at the time. That ambiguity would allow her to be brought back alive in subsequent appearances like Deep Freeze and Sub-Zero. Speaking of which, that film was originally going to be a Bane story, but with the casting of Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze in the upcoming Batman and Robin, WB mandated it be a free story. Much is also said about the villains' comic book origins and how they changed over time as the landscape of the comic industry changed. How characters like Catwoman and Two-Face were either toned down or simply absent during the Silver Age following the introduction of the Comics Code. How the cancellation of the Adam West show prompted the Batman comics to go through a dark renaissance that saw the reinvention of old villains like Joker and Two-Face, and the introduction of new antagonists like Ra's al Ghul and Man-Bat. and of course, how BTAS's reimaginings influenced the comics going forward. The actual analysis of these characters is excellent. Rogues Gallery digs deep into the psychology of Batman's foes, what drives them, and how they mirror the Dark Knight himself. One of the reasons Batman's Rogues Gallery is so effective is because many of his villains represent an aspect of his personality. Rogues Gallery is acutely aware of this fact and draws many interesting parallels between the Cape Crusader and his foes. But what makes this book so special, at least to me, is again how thorough it is. These essays explore every major appearance the characters make across the entire DCAU, from the shows to the Time comics, discussing stories that I don't see many people talk about. They also cover external inspirations for the villains, or at least potential inspirations. For example, Serum makes the case that BTAS's Clayface was inspired by actors Lon Chaney and Montgomery Clift, as there are several similarities between them and Matt Hagen. I won't discuss them here because I recommend you either read the book for yourself or at least watch Serum's video on the subject. Links will be in the description. And this treatment isn't just reserved for the big villains that everyone knows and loves, like Two-Face, Mr. Freeze, and the Joker, who isn't even featured in this book. Rogues Gallery also explores the show's lesser-known antagonists, characters that are often overlooked, like Lockup, Roland Daggett, Red Claw, Mojo, and even the Sewer King. And I found these essays to be some of the most interesting in the book. The ones on Baby Doll and Mojo in particular draw some really interesting parallels between them and Batman, which again I won't spoil because I encourage you to find out for yourself. In terms of presentation, Rogues Gallery is well formatted, the style of writing is engaging, and there are several moments of well-placed humor sprinkled throughout. My favorites being Serum's critique of Roland Daggett's fashion sense and how he refers to TNBA's Mr. Freeze as his divorced dad phase, both of which genuinely made me laugh. However, there are some noticeable errors that do take me out of the book. Dr. Savannah is misspelled as Savannah, several sentences don't read as they should, and art style is repeated when it should say animation. It doesn't ruin the book, but it's still distracting whenever I find one, and it comes off as a little sloppy. The book concludes with an afterword where Serum thanks the reader, the creators of BTAS, and his YouTube audience, before teasing a second book exploring other characters like Joker, Harley Quinn, Bane, Kyoto Ken, and more. And that's Rogues Gallery. Overall, it's a solid, breezy read that provides fantastic examinations of some of BTAS's villains and wonderful insight into the creation of the landmark show and the comics that inspired it. The book is a love letter to BTAS through and through, and if you're an avid fan of that show, or the Batman character in general, it's definitely worth a read, and I look forward to what's next. On to you, folks. What do you think of Rogues Gallery? Leave your answers in the comment section below. Make sure to pay Serum Lake a visit. If you enjoy the show and want to see more, like, subscribe, share, and do all the other YouTube things. And tune in next time for whatever out of the hat discussion I have next.